All right. Hey, guys, we are live with the Tuesday Redroom, episode 80. Um, and for you guys that love Luke, he is off today because he and Sage had a baby over the weekend. If you follow him on social media, you would know that he's just had a baby. So he said he might jump on, but if he doesn't, I told him that we'd be okay skipping him today. So, today we got little market update. We've just been cruising along. We've seen the 10-year kind of tick down a little bit. For July and election year, our market still seems to be going pretty good. If you see anything else, comment below. I honestly thought we would have a slower July than we are currently having. Our inventory is sitting around 17,700, which isn't bad. We started at 15,100 in January, and we ticked up to 17,000. We've just kind of stayed in that 17,000 now for probably the last 2 or 3 months. Tipped on 18,000 for maybe a week, but we've just been staying kind of right here. But Ellis came to the last live event in June that we had at Fidelity Title, talked about pad split. And I know this is kind of like a different concept. I had to kind of wrap my head around it, but I also have to wrap my head around that I don't think like everybody else out there in the world, right? So, I was like, pad split, like sharing community areas and a house with like 8 other people I didn't know, just kind of didn't wrap around my brain right away. But once again, affordable housing is important, and as we know, Phoenix has been, and Florida, the 2 states I work in, is getting less and less affordable with interest rates rising and prices really haven't come down to counteract that, if you will. So with that being said, let's jump in with Ellis and TJ. TJ is a pad split owner, and Ellis just kind of runs. Is it a franchise that you run here locally in Phoenix, or how does that work?
No, I'm a W-2 for pad split, but I launched the market here in Phoenix in January of 2023. So I'm the only pad split presence locally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like a little bit of background, like where this kind of started, and then jump into the nuts and bolts of it after that.
Yeah. For some background on the asset class, we're in the co-living asset class, rent by room, shared housing, anything you want to call it. This is the 4th co-living company that I've worked for. The previous 3 were actually based in the Bay Area. Got my start there in 2017 or so. Every single one of them have folded, unfortunately, because of their business models. They were not in the affordable housing space either, so pad split is a little bit different in that sense. But we work primarily with investors of single-family properties. Sometimes we do multifamily as well, who are open to converting the common areas into additional bedrooms. I tell investors this is the multifamily model in a single-family asset, while solving the affordability issue. So even in today's interest rates, you can purchase a property, turn it into a 7, 8 bedroom, 9 bedroom, maybe pad split, and still cash flow.
Yeah, and based on the numbers you guys were seeing at their live event, they're actually cash. Like I've owned a few Airbnbs. I kind of went to the high end Airbnbs in Scottsdale. Obviously, did well in the COVID years and kind of when people weren't traveling out of the country, and then post COVID and everybody staying put. Obviously the numbers have come down a little bit, but you guys are putting out some really good returns for people.
Yeah. TJ can definitely talk about that. He's got a 9 bedroom, an 8 bedroom, and I think the next one is going to be a 10 bedroom. Is that right?
The next one's going to be another 8, and the one after that's going to be a 10.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the biggest one we have right now in Arizona is an 11 bedroom, 4 bathroom. At full occupancy, the investors netting, I think, $4,000, $4.5 grand a month.
So net, yeah. So after expenses, I would assume that's power, water, and all that. And then does that include management too? All that included?
Okay. Yeah, that includes our management fees. The other operating expenses from the host side include cleaning of the common areas of at least once a month, landscaping, room turnover cleanings, and some hosts opt in to hire a second property manager to take care of what we don't, and that's everything that has to do with the building directly. And some opt in to self-manage, like TJ. So, if you decide to self-manage, you do understand the product a little bit more intimately on the front lines. And our biggest self-managing host right now, they have 8 properties, 60 bedrooms, and they say the time commitment is 3 to 5 hours because of all the systems they've created. So it's doable, but there is definitely a learning curve involved with it.
All right. So so TJ, how many pad splits do you have?
So I have 2 operating right now. I have a third one coming online next week, and I just purchased another property which will come online in about 2 months. So 2 active, one more week, and then a fourth, another month and a half or 2 months.
And on the 2 that are currently operating, how would you compare, your rent versus like a traditional rent? Is it 2x? Is it 3x? Do you kind of know that number?
Yeah, the rent that I've gotten on pad splits, because I was a landlord for many years before this, for about 15 years beforehand. I had single family residential, multifamily for years as well. And then I've been consolidating some of my portfolio as the market's been shifting. And so specifically for rents, it's about 3x on the rents for a house. And that's after expenses, including internet, water, trash, sewer, you name it, and the occasional, broken window or fix up. Because again, this is not a set it and forget it business, in my opinion. It's real estate, but it's also deals with people. And we can never forget that that's the most important element. You're working with people that often have, lower economic means, but they just want to be heard and listened to and appreciated and valued. And if you can do that, you can really do well.
Yeah. So with the single tenant, is there any kind of number that says, hey, let's just say, someone signs a normal 12-month lease on a house. What's the normal lease time for a single? Is it 30 days? Is it what does that turnover look like?
Yeah.
So for my long-term residential, because I have multiple products. I have regular single-family residential with which are on, some are on triple net leases, some are on your standard leases for residential, some are on commercial. But that's typically a 12-month lease. And then if things were to go south, if you had to evict them for some reason, you're typically at about a 30-day process, depending on how quickly you can get a constable out there to remove them, or what your relationship is with the person that's there. And that's why I say it's so important to actually have the relationship with your tenant, regardless of how many you have. Try to have some touch point there. So if things go south, that's not the first time you're interacting with them for a negative experience.
Yeah. So can you give us an idea, like what's the turnover rate of your call it 16 bedrooms that you have?
So I've got 17 bedrooms right now. Turnover rate, average stay is about, since I'm still pretty young, but again, I've turned over, average stay is about 45 to 60 days so far. But again, it's still pretty early, but I'm not losing many people. And if I do, it's because someone has had an interpersonal conflict with somebody in that house. And so I just had them transfer to another house of mine. So having 2 close by has been pretty useful. So you actually don't lose them because they don't want to leave if they know they're valued. You just trying to find something that fits better with that personality, because every house truly has, or every pad split, in my opinion, that I have, has its own feel, its own culture. And so not everybody fits with everybody. And so it's important to be mindful of that and not just be a bulldozer and say, hey, well, you did this wrong or that wrong. And so let's listen to everybody. What's going on? Let's work the problem. What is that person's actual need? Are you hearing what they need versus just trying to keep somebody in your pad split? Because I don't think that's successful for anybody, in my opinion, at least not for me. Working with the person and figuring out what the actual goal is versus just trying to fill a bed. I don't see any longevity with that. If you work with the person, you get people staying longer so far.
Yeah. Well, it's just communication, and people are people, right? I mean, that's just down to the whole business in general, right? So is there do you generally go furnished rooms or unfurnished rooms?
I do completely furnished rooms, and I also add refrigerators in every room.
Okay.
Why? It's a bit of an extra cost up front, but it really cuts down on people worrying about, well, you took my sandwich or my salad or whatnot. And decent sized refrigerators, not the little tiny mini, 1.4 cubic foot ones. Good fridges. Because again, you want people to have that sense of pride of ownership, and this is theirs. It's that security, Maslow's hierarchy, and so that's been really helpful having their own. I furnish beds, nightstands, and sometimes desks or couches or chairs, and others fridges.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. I remember having 3 teenagers and like someone would bring home leftovers and think they were having it in the morning and it'd be gone.
Yeah, no, on that topic, we tell hosts that the name of the game for Pad Split is to try to remove as much conflict as possible. And in a co-living setting, that happens in the shared spaces. In the fridge, shelving, you label all the shelves, label all the cabinets. In the bathrooms, try to decongest it by providing mirrors in the bedrooms if possible, providing a second set of washer and dryer if you can. So as long as the member is comfortable, the member is the tenant in our model, the more likely they're going to stay longer.
So what's the anybody have like an average cost? Let's just say you have a home that wasn't, obviously I've always been a distressed buyer, so I'm always putting X dollars into a rehab. Obviously you're going to probably start with, a 4-3, and then maybe enclose a dining room and a living room to add the couple extra rooms, or do you maybe cut the master in half? What are some kind of ideas there?
So with my experience, I've purchased. I like purchasing a minimum 3 bathrooms. Again, for that keeping everybody kind of separate and having their own space. And so typically a 4-3 is what I'll purchase, and I'll convert it to an 8 or an 8-3, 8-4, or a 9-3, 9-4. Because again, trying to add anywhere where you can add space and privacy is critical, and large closets as well. And so that's that. And also the size of the house does matter. If you go from a 4-3 and it's a 1,500 square foot house and you try to make it an 8-3, it's still going to be people crammed on top of each other, and that's never going to end well, at least from the hosts that I've talked to and in my experience. So I try to buy something at least 1,900 square feet or above, and then convert potentially the garage as well. But then there's potential permits involved with that and more time and cost. So it's a balancing act.
So do you have a sense of like, hey, if I'm going to take this 4-3, it's going to cost me 40-50 grand to convert it to a pad split? Is there an idea of a number for that?
Well, fortunately for me, I have a background in investment banking, syndicated leveraged finance, high yield bonds, leveraged buyouts, stuff like that. And so I enjoy numbers, and I kind of geek out on the Excel and modeling and math. And so for every property, when I come across it, I look at, well, what's the area? What's the general cost going to be? What's the value over time that I see in that area? How many rooms can I fit in there? And also, what's the quality and size of those rooms? You asked a moment ago about splitting a master bedroom in half. I prefer not to do that because, again, if it has an ensuite, it's incremental value. If it's a large master, people value their space, and so it's looking at a property, very quickly assessing how much is it going to cost as you do a walk around internally and externally. If you do this for a living or do it for a while, you can start to gather numbers in your head. Hey, this AC is toast. That this has a pool, don't need that. Or this, the fascia here is terrible. The inside, the flooring is gone, or everything's warped. And so there can be a fair amount of expense involved with rehabbing it. I did fix and flips for a long time before this, so I was fortunate to be very comfortable walking into a situation, seeing what the house looks like, and quickly assessing, okay, this is what I think it's going to cost me, and then going back and taking the time to actually run the math and the numbers of what I'm seeing the average rates are for pad splits in the area, what my average rates are for what I'm currently seeing, and where I think rates are going to go. And then I can extrapolate the model, very simple one-page model to figure out, well, what's my water cost going to be? What's the electricity I think it's going to be? How is it going to spike? And so it is not as simple as some people like to make it seem, but it's also not overly complicated. If you take it piece by piece and be steady, thoughtful, methodical, and thorough, it can really be quite fulfilling.
Yeah. And then on pad split side, we will share the renovation guides, the furnishing guides, and then the onboarding and listing guides with our investors so that they're kind of guided throughout the entire process. Chris, have you ever seen a pad split?
I've never walked one, no, but I get the concept. When you guys were talking, you guys talked about kind of that long, skinny house and where those can be beneficial. Because obviously you have a lot of times you'll have the master and 2 or 3 bedrooms down one side. You just gotta kind of convert the dining room and the living room on the other side. But I get the concept when you guys were describing it.
Yeah, I was going to offer to actually present my screen and show TJ's one of TJ's properties if you were open to that.
Sure. Oh,
yep. I think maybe I can press this present button. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you can just do it. It'll add it, and then I just add it to the.
Got it. Should we give it a shot?
Sure.
Okay, let's try that. Here we go. Can you see this here?
Yeah, so I can add. Yeah, so I can add that to the stage.
Okay.
And so this would be the entryway, and the type of house you have and the style is very important for what you're going to do. I may look at 15, 20 houses, and only one of them or two of them might be suitable for this kind of model, being able to chop it up appropriately. So you want as much space as possible and this minimum square footage in each room to give people that comfort.
Yeah.
And this here used to be the living room, so now it's a really good size room. All the rooms in this property are a good size, I think 130, 140 square feet. I love this angled wall here, just so there's no sharp angles. On the right side of this floor plan is where the original 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, I believe, or 3 bathrooms?
2 bathrooms.
2 bathrooms were. But here to the left is all the common area. I always show this property as one of my favorite because it's still spacious. You have still plenty of seating for dining. And then this used to be the garage. Sorry, it's loading a little bit slowly, so bear with me here. But TJ was able to get 2 additional bedrooms out of that, out of the garage space. We need exterior egress, so he punched a window on this side to satisfy that. Turned this area into a laundry room with 2 sets of washer and dryers. Put in a really nice waterfall bathroom, shower there, and another bedroom there. So that's 3 additional bedrooms so far. And then 4 and 5 are where the dining area, maybe second living area were. Sorry, my internet might be a little bit slow, but you get the idea. Another big room there. So now this original 4-3 became a 9-5, and this thing leased up in, I think it was 40 days or so.
It's a 9-4. It took about 42 days to get that one fully leased.
42.
And what area of town is this?
In Glendale.
Okay.
And so, well, if you go back to the bathrooms, and one thing I can't stress enough are the bathrooms, because really having spaciously, nicely done facilities are critical. Because if not everybody is as clean as everybody else, obviously, and so having multiple bathrooms to go to in case one does get plugged up or for whatever reason something goes down, you've got 3 others out there as a backup, and it's not an emergency. Versus if it's a 3-2, that's a problem if you have 6-7 people in there.
Yeah, and TJ touched on this earlier on about each house having a different culture. That's why it's vital for hosts to really, on top of what we do in terms of vetting the members, to vet them, to kind of start them off on the right foot. If you have 1 or 2 members starting the property off on the right foot, people that move in subsequently, they're going to either adapt to that culture or end up churning. So it's important to get it right from the get-go.
And to that extent, I kind of view it as your anchor tenant. No different than in a strip mall situation where you've got your large anchor tenant. That person does drive the culture of that room. Someone that's been there maybe the longest or the first one there, they tend to have the welcoming mat out for people or not. Some houses are really friendly, and I go there. I talk to all the members, and they talk to each other, and they're genuinely comfortable with each other. Some houses, people just want to do their own thing and live their life, and that's perfectly fine. So it's just a matter of finding that balance as you're accepting people in, to actually read the backgrounds of those folks and try to see, well, will they blend with the other 5 people I know are at that house? I find that to be very helpful, to kind of, again, as much as you can on paper, get a sense as to will this work, and then you hope for the best when they meet with each other and de-escalate any conflict if it arises.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to. Sorry, Chris. Just one more thing I wanted to add on this floor plan. So on the topic of removing conflict, with 9 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms would have been fine, but TJ decided to opt in for that 4th. He could have technically, even at 9 bedrooms, kept this So this is the original master bedroom here. This used to be the door, but he went ahead and added these walls right in front of us to separate the bathroom from the actual master room originally. So now the master bathroom, I'm sorry, is now a shared one as well. So now it's a 9-bedroom and 4 shared bathrooms. So I'm guessing there's very little conflict or congestion when it comes to bathroom use, and this is going to end up increasing tenure of its members.
So you mentioned at the beginning, like, cleanings, like, as low as once a month. I gotta think that like cleanings like once a week, and I know that might be expensive, would seem like, because just cleanliness for different people is just at different levels, right?
Correct. Minimum once every 2 weeks typically would be the minimum. And then that also depends on the cleanliness of the people. I have some folks that have severe bleach allergies, for example. So you have to be careful. There's things you have to be mindful of. It's not. It's a conversation with folks, and so that particular tenant wants to clean everything himself because he knows exactly how he likes it and uses very safe products for him. Great, one less issue. But for every other place, I contract out typically at least twice a month.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I mean, I live kind of by myself, and I still get my place clean, once a month or once a week. I like stuff clean. So.
Yeah. The expectation is people will keep clean in between cleanings, but based off of the membership guidelines that we have. But yeah, some hosts will opt in to do twice a month, which I think is great if you can make the numbers work.
I'd also stress just having a touch point. I'm at each of these properties, maybe once or twice a week. I just stop in, say hi, how are things going? Everything working? Because quite often being preventative saves you a lot of time, hassle, and money. And your tenants really appreciate it when you're asking, hey, is this working? Well, if it's not working as well as it should, let's get that right. Again, it's showing that they're valued because you actually do care. And in the end, it's more profitable for my business. It makes for a happier tenant. It's a win for everybody.
Nice. So Ellis, I assume with your company, you just help people, like, you kind of got, hey, here's a list of items you need to look for when you're buying a house. Once you buy a house, here's a list of items that you'd want to probably do to rehab the house or do the CapEx to get it done.
Yep.
Once you get it up and running, do you help them fill the tenants? What does all that look like?
Yeah. So once we go live, that's when we'll do our thing. So we do all the marketing. We do paid marketing as our sole marketing strategy. We're pretty good at getting people in. We'll also take care of the background checks on top of that. We'll do the background criminal check as well as the income check. From there, if they're approved to move in, we will send out all their agreements, all their move-in instructions with the door locks through our software. At the end of the day, we're very much like Airbnb, the tech platform, but for co-living. We'll collect their rent monies. Once they're in the property, we do collections on a weekly basis. And then our support team can help with escalated member-to-member conflict resolution. So anything to do with the ground floor in terms of maintenance, cleaning, landscaping, room turnovers, that's on the host. But everything else we'll take care of.
Okay. So is there like a pad split education platform or something that like takes you from just being a 1 year, year-to-year tenant landlord and converting to the pad split model, or what does that look like?
Technically, that's me. That's my whole role. My role technically, I'm a senior account executive, but I like to say that I'm a customer success manager as well. So my whole job is to get investors kind of to reframe what they think co-living is, get them to understand the value proposition that we offer, get them on board. That's a good segue. I met TJ at a multifamily event. I told him about pad split. He very quickly, understood the value because he came from the group home business prior to this, and he kind of, just we ran with it. We met. Was this October, November? October. So in 9 months, 10 months, he's almost getting his 4th property up and running. So, TJ's got aggressive plans to scale.
And I'll add from Ellis's standpoint and pad split standpoint, it's been really useful because I didn't really understand what this model was at first. It seemed kind of weird. Like, what is this? I know single family, I know multifamily. That's been my bread and butter for a while. And I asked him if he would just come take a look at some of these houses that I was prospecting to see would this work for that model. And I had 1,000 questions for him for everything from room sizes to what kind of locks do you put on, or handles, or security. And so he was very gracious with his time and went through and actually toured every property with me. And as I was doing that tour, I was asking questions about what other PassFlip members have gone through and what they do. And through that process, I just learned a lot about the do's and don'ts. But again, nothing replaces the experience of actually doing one. And so the first one, you learn a bunch and you tweak it and you get a pretty good system. It's not difficult, but it does take time and commitment to really understand and appreciate it. And then once you do that, you can really quickly get a system in place to make it exponentially easier to expand. Both cut down the time and rehabbing them, because you know what people value and what they don't value as far as the tenants. And then also in terms of having the confidence that PassFlip provides that community and that market, that I'm not having to spend my dollars out there marketing and trying to find people and source people like when I was a landlord before, which is really a pain. And so it does take some of that pressure off, knowing that I'm going to have people to fill these spots, and that gives you confidence to go to the next.
Yeah, it's just like all the people that come to RIAs like mine and all that. They can talk about doing a fix and flip all day long, but until they've actually done one, right? Then they kind of get a sense of what it's really about, right?
100%. It is not as easy. It is a lot of work to get one up and running, but it is fantastically worth it. Both the learning experience and the personal fulfillment for this. I've personally, I'll share a story briefly. I've had tenants come up to me and say, "Hey man, that shower was amazing. I haven't had a shower like that in years." It really gave me a sense of my pride and dignity back. I mean, how do you respond to that? I mean, that just pulls at your heartstrings as a person, as a landlord. You love that. And so if you really enjoy working and helping people, this is a fantastic model, and it is profitable. So I have nothing but good things to say so far.
That's awesome. So let's work. So I assume you just go get conventional financing. I know that if you were to just go to XYZ mortgage broker, they probably wouldn't. You would have to just go get regular financing. But Ellis, have you seen any like local business banks or any specialty banks that might be working with PassFlip specifically that are giving any kind of special financing for these kind of things?
I'm going to pass that right to TJ. He's got some direct experience with that.
Yeah, so banking is my background. So I speak banker speak, so to speak. That's my forte. So I'm not seeing any banks that are specifically targeting PassFlips, because I've looked and to see if they know what it is. And no matter what property you're looking at, a bank is going to go through the regular underwriting process regardless. And so if you have the creditworthiness and the assets to be able to secure a loan, you're going to do that because that's the cheapest possible money, 30-year fixed money if possible for a single family residential. If you're a little bit tight on cash and maybe you've got some issues with capital or collateral, maybe you can do a DSCR, or a debt service coverage ratio loan, where the banks they're not necessarily looking at your personal background, they're looking at the property itself. If they do an appraisal on it, what does this mark to market rent? How much rent can come in? And if it meets certain metrics and ratios that they require, they'll give you the loan. Now that'll be at a higher interest rate. But again, something's got to give or take. I've talked to folks that have done hard money loans as well. But again, if you do that, that's always tricky. Begin with the end in mind. If you do a hard money loan, you better have a banker or somebody lined up behind you that can take it out in short order if things go south. And so banking wise, there's still, once you show them the math, they understand it, they like it. It's not an emotional decision for them. It's just, do you have the cash flow, assets, and collateral to, what's your primary, secondary, tertiary course of repayment? That's really what they're looking for. And so what I'm seeing is for mine, I've done a couple, I bought for cash, other properties, couple of 2 PassFlips I did with traditional conventional financing with a bank. And now I've done 2 now with doing DSCR loans because they're quicker. And so as you get a relationship with these bankers and understanding, hey, it takes them a while to understand what you're doing. But once they see the math and the numbers, they say, okay, I like this. This makes sense. It takes about 6 months of cash flow before they'll let you refi into a traditional, at least for me, until you can refi into a traditional facility.
So are they taking the pad split income, or are they taking just on, hey, this is the rent for this area?
to start, it's just the rent for this area. And then after 6 months of showing, here's what the pad split rent is, then they'll adjust that for the more conventional financing.
Okay, cool.
It's kind of our first we try, then we trust situation with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our hope is that
Cool.
some point we kind of work with Air DNA to have them maybe come up with a co-living DNA so that lenders can kind of rely on that as far as projected revenue numbers goes. We're actually in talks with them right now, TBD. We'll see what comes out of that.
Nice. So is there anything that I have missed in my questions that, maybe I should have asked or forgot to ask, or, that you're going to say, hey, what about, you got to look at this, this idea or that idea?
Yeah. Go ahead, TJ.
I would just say, why do this? Right. Cause there's easy ways to make money out there. Right. And there's short-term and long-term ways to do it. You can always make more money. You can never get the time back. And so, why do this model? Why use pad split for this? Well, there's a convenience factor. And if you don't want to actually help people and work with people, don't do this. You have no business in this field, in my opinion. And that's just my personal opinion. This is a people-intensive thing because it should be. It's people working with people at the end of the day. And so if you value people and you value your asset and your real estate, and you want to see it grow, again, steady, thoughtful, methodical, and thorough over time, this is fantastic. But it's not a get-rich-quick thing that I see on a lot of channels out there where everyone's thinking, hey, this is the newest thing to make a ton of money super fast. Or begin with the end in mind. Where do you want to go with this? And so I think the why is the most important question. What drives you to do this? Because your tenants, they may be of maybe lower economic means, right? They might be poor. They're not stupid. They're people. Never forget that.
Yeah. Well, none of this real estate is a get rich quick. People think it is, but then it's all business, and it all takes consistency and action and all the stuff that you have to do to run a real business.
Yeah. And the last thing I would say is do research. But at the end of the day, you have to trust your gut and actually move on it and act. I see a lot of people that say, oh, well, I could have made money in this stock market, or I could have bought that piece of real estate. Yeah, but you didn't. You sat there, you waited. You have to move. Movement is life. And if you fail, you fail, but at least fall forward and don't make the same mistake twice.
Cool. Well, thanks for jumping on, guys. Try to keep this at like 30 minutes, but you can see Ellis's email right there below his right there, Ellis at Pad Split. So if you have any more questions, obviously, jump in. I'll be watching the comments on both YouTube and Phoenix RIA. If Ellis misses any of them, I can text him those questions, or you can just email Ellis at ellis@padsplit.com. And appreciate you guys jumping on. Looks like an exciting new thing in real estate for people to get going. And I've always kind of like with I guess the closest thing would be the medical housing or something like that. And to do that, you got to get licensing and all that from the state. And I think there's elderly homes, and then there's homes for different kind of medical conditions. This seems like it's kind of the same avenue without all that bureaucracy.
Yep, exactly. We're just in the affordable housing space. We're targeting usually the minimum wage earner. From the renter side, very high proposition value. Around $900 a month gets you a nice room in a nicely renovated home, furniture included, utilities included, Wi-Fi, washer, dryer, and with flexible lease terms. So in the last year and a half, since launching the market here, we broke 100 pad splits live as of last week, close to 700 live bedrooms. So we've housed already almost 1,000 people in Arizona. And this is just the beginning for Arizona.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, guys. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I lose it? Yeah. And voila, we're off.
Nice.